I'd like to welcome you to the Fall Bounty week-long introduction to some of my favorite fall foods. First, as we kind of talked about, you saw an introduction to what we're going to be doing, but I just wanted to make this video to give you a really brief introduction on one of the most essential, I think, and simple things that you can do in your kitchen that will allow all of your food to, number one, provide you with a ton more nutrients, and number two, if you ever wondered how people get their food to just have that flavor where you're like, gosh, that's so good, how do they get it to taste so good? This is kind of a trick. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make something really simple. It's a base, it's one of the basics that I like to call, which is the base for the week. So we're going to be using this in some of the recipes for the rest of the week. So I encourage you to make this. You know, you can take the shortcut a lot of times and go out and buy it, but there's nothing more like learning how to do it in your own kitchen because you know what you're putting in there, and it's going to be a lot cheaper in the long run. So today we're going to be making what I like to call mineral broth, and really it's just a healing, a really rejuvenating broth. And you're kind of like, broth, you know, okay, but the thing with you can call it stock, you can call it broth, is there's so many applications that you can use this for. So, I mean, not only does it like alkalinize and rejuvenize your body, but it also basically takes all the mineral stores that are in your body and it brings them back. So you're really healing your body when you consume any type of broth. You could, like if you tend to eat meat, a bone broth that you've probably heard a lot in the news and things like that lately, maybe, or reading. That's another really popular one. This just uses vegetables, possibly a potato here and there. Depending upon what your allergies are, we can take and eliminate those. So it's really one of those kinds of broths that's whatever works for you. It's really just all about taking a vegetable and extracting every mineral out of this that you possibly can, and then using that to supplement minerals that you may not have as much of in other foods, or just to give you a really nice flavor. You can use a stock pot when you do this, or you can use a crock pot. I'm going to use a crock pot, but I'll tell you what to do with a stock pot as well. And basically this is the basis for cooking or doing anything in the kitchen that you just want to impart any flavor in, or that there'll be water in. Things like when you cook rice or when you cook beans. You can also just drink it by itself, or you can use it as a base for soups. And so if we're making some fall soups, that's also a really good way to do that as well. You can use it as the base for cooking. If you don't want to use an oil, you can use a broth, and that will also give you a lot of flavor and things like that. It's loaded with phytonutrients, and it basically is a really good way also to get calcium. I know a lot of people, you know, say, oh, well, I don't want to drink a lot of milk, so I tend to do these other things, but I feel like I'm not getting as much calcium, so then they supplement with calcium tablets, which, as we've probably all heard again in the news, they're finding studies that calcium tablets, especially for women, aren't really the way to go. So if you're looking to get your calcium, whether you're a mom or, you know, someone who's getting older and needs that calcium intake, or just want to maintain it, this is a really good way, because vegetables, especially leafy greens, are actually full of calcium, and we can eat a ton of them and be fine getting our calcium that way, but this is kind of just like a supplemental way to do it. So what we're going to do is I am just going to clean off my vegetables real quick here. Some tips when making the broth so that you know. What I have is basically, I just have, like, for example, an onion that I got at the store. All I'm going to do here is scrub this skin really, really well. I may remove it if I don't totally trust the store that I bought it from, which is why I always encourage you to buy organic and or from places like a farmer's market, because you just know the produce is a little bit better. You don't know, you know, how far it's traveled or where it's been when you get it at the grocery store. But if you do get it at the grocery store, that's totally fine. Since we're heading into the fall, a lot of farmers markets aren't available. So grocery store is fine. Just really scrub this really well, but you don't have to remove any of this. We're going to throw this all into that pot. it really just creates a ton more flavor, and you're really getting out the most nutrients. For example, the bottom of an onion, you see this root part right here. Think of this as a seed. So the nutrients that come into this onion, where do they start? They start from the seed. So the seed has the most amount of nutrients. It's the most nutrient dense part. And so if we can extract the most nutrients from the most nutrient dense part of the vegetable or fruit or whatever we're using, that's what we want to do. It's the same with like a bone broth, which when you put the bones in, you're trying to get those bones that are the ones that are the most used, or the ones that are the most thick, the ones that have the most cartilage gelatin, because that will really extract all that and allow it to go into that broth that you can then consume and absorb into your body. So we're going to use the whole thing. Hopefully that was a good explanation. We're going to use a beet. I have just a golden beet here, but you can use a red beet. For the recipe, you're going to want to peel the skin off here. Now, what you can do, a simple trick, is either you can cut, I would say try to keep this end part, but you could peel this part off with a peeler, or a really easy way to do this is just throw it into some boiling water for about 20 minutes, and then take it out, let it cool, and the skin will just peel right off. You can just kind of wipe it off like that. So that's a really easy trick on peeling a beet. I'm going to, the recipe I give you guys may call for a few different types of vegetables or things like that. I'm going to use a yam because that's what I have. You can use the turnips or the parsnips. You can use winter squash in the recipe as well. I'm just going to use that because that's what I have. One thing I encourage you through all the recipes that we do and everything that we do this week is use what you have. If the recipe calls for something and it's not like a critical ingredient, and you can replace it, like a root vegetable for a root vegetable, that's fine. I'll give you some tips maybe of some things that you can replace so that you can get an idea of what that would be. But you don't need to worry about going to the store and buying all these extra things if you have them on hand. So I'd like to talk about that in this video for prep day, because when you prep for shopping for some of the ingredients for some of these meals, just know that you don't have to go crazy and buy everything in every recipe. If you can maybe ad-lib or give and take on some recipes, you'll still have a really good meal, and it'll save you some money, and you can always try it a different way next time. You never know. That's how experimentation happens, and you may find a recipe that's a lot better than the one I give you. So just remember that. So we'll do that. The other thing is I have some garlic, same thing. We're gonna just put this whole thing in here. But I'm gonna give you a little trick on the garlic in a few minutes here. Same with, actually, let me pull this over. I have some celery. We're gonna leave the leaves on. I have some rainbow chard here. We're gonna just clean that up. And then the carrots, I'm just gonna scrub them and cut them. So same thing for you. And that's pretty much all I have as far as the vegetables to go into the meal. So I'm gonna get washing. And if you have already purchased your ingredients and you're doing this along with this, if you're cooking along with this video, then feel free to grab those and give them a wash, and we can throw everything in together. Otherwise, I'm gonna start washing here, and you can just put it on pause, and I'll be right back when I'm done. Okay, so the vegetables are done washing. Like I said, I just scrubbed them all. And so we're just gonna do a really quick chop on them and throw them into the crock pot. I'm using a crock pot. If you wanna use a regular stock pot, which is just a regular pot, one of the cool things that you can do with that is sort of simmer some of the things before you turn it into a soup. And what that does is just, it extracts the flavors from them, so it just makes it a little bit more flavorful of a broth. In my case, I'm trying it with a crock pot today, but if you have questions about how to do that, we can go over that. But basically you would start with your onion, and then your garlic and your celery and carrots. You throw it in on very low, just allow it to sweat in the pan. Maybe put the lid on with a teeny bit of water. Just allow it to kind of just get a little translucent. And then add in some of the other chopped vegetables, the heavier ones like the beet and the potato. Kind of same, just allow that steam to kind of get going in there, very low temperature so that it's just kind of cooking. And then you can add in some herbs if you want, but you don't really have to do it at that point because these are going to draw out that flavor. And then you can add in your grains, pour in the water. You're going to turn it up to a boil, and that's when you're just going to, once it's done boiling, turn it down to a simmer and let it cook for up to 24 hours if you can. But I know a lot of you are saying, I don't have 24 hours to sit around and watch my stove. So you can do it for 6 to 8 hours, 6 hours at the least. You want to leave it on for as long as you can because that way you're extracting the most nutrients from all of the things that you're putting into it. And that's kind of why I say if you have a crock pot, it might be kind of a cool way to do it. You can definitely leave these overnight. You know, do it when you get home from work, throw everything in a pot, turn it on, go to sleep, go to work, come home from work, boom, strain it, you have stock. So it can be a really friendly way to do it if you don't have a lot of time. So what we're gonna do is chop these vegetables up and throw them into the crock pot, and we'll get going after that with any questions. So if you would like to put me on pause so you can get that all ready, or you can follow me along as I cut the vegetables. So I'm starting with the celery, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to teenily, you like that, that's the word, teenily cut off the bottom of the celery just because it doesn't look so friendly. And the tops are pretty good, and I want the tops. I want all the leaves and things, so I might just cut a couple small little pieces off the tops. But otherwise, I'm just going to do a couple cuts here. And I like to cut them all around the same size so that they cook evenly in the pot. But basically that's it. I'm going to cut them and I'm going to throw them in. So easy. And I'm going to do the same thing with the carrots and the onion and so on. And to give you guys a little, just cutting off that little piece here, but like I said, I'm going to leave the root on these vegetables and throw that in. You know, to give you a little idea, if you do have a family, a picky family, or if you're, you know, you have kids that don't want to eat their vegetables or things like that, and you just have a hard time, or maybe you're an adult and you don't really like vegetables, I don't really know. But, you know, either way, if you have a hard time and you just want to get some additional nutrients into the diets of your family or yourself, this is a really cool way to do it because, and this is kind of a secret, but, you know, don't tell anybody. But this is secretly an easy way to do that. You cook your rice with it, boom. It just tastes better. Mom's a good cook, you know, everyone's a good cook, and you basically just use broth with a ton of nutrients, and haha, family, you now have a ton more nutrients than you thought you did before. So it's kind of a sneaky way, but at the same time, it's also that trick that allows you to really impart the nutrients that you'll need in your food that may not have as much as you would hope for. There you go, my carrots are going in. One thing I did forget to mention is when you do the garlic, to get the benefit out of garlic, by just smashing the garlic and throwing it in there, you're not getting anything. What you want to do is you want to take your garlic, take this big one here, you know, obviously put it on the board, and you know how to smash the garlic. You know, we're just going to give it a pound until it kind of breaks up like this. You can kind of see it broken with the skin. So you want to leave this on your counter for 10 minutes. And what that does is it releases something called allicin, and that's basically allowing all of the, I guess you can just say all of the nutrients, all of the things that are cancer fighting, all the things that are nutrient forming to be released from the garlic. And that is the way to do it. If you chop it up, it's not the same. For some reason, you just have to smash it, and that will release it. Oh my God, it smells so good. So I'm gonna do that really quick with these garlics so we can get that ultimate benefit from them. Then I'm gonna take my onion, and I'm leaving the skin on and the butt of the onion. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to evenly cut it. Now this is all going to be strained out later, so it really doesn't matter if your cuts are pretty. It doesn't matter if they're completely even. The goal is really just to cut it about the same size. Paper, I'm throwing it in. It really just gives you a ton more flavor. That's what it does. Now, if you are obviously making, a soup, you can actually leave those in as well. It's just going to take a little bit longer to strain them out, but it's the same thing. So while I'm talking, I'm just going to plug this in and turn this on high. Okay. One trick just for you guys when you're cutting a sweet potato, because these things can be pretty tough, you always just want to make sure, and this is common sense, but a lot of times we forget, you want to make sure that you always cut with the flat side down. So what I did was I cut it like this. Okay, now I'm going to cut it again in half, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it flat. Then I'm going to make my cuts again. And that's really just for safety and to help you out when you're cutting. Always cut with the flat side down. Okay, now if you're using Swiss chard or collard greens or kale, you can use the stems. So I don't even need you to take those puppies off of those stems. You can just trim the bottoms of the stems a teeny bit and then just give them a quick chop. Alright, now I'm going to add in some mushrooms. And for this, I didn't have any mushrooms, but I did have a package of dried mushrooms. And if you do have one of these or you prefer to buy this instead, that's fine. It's going to just give you a little bit more of an intense mushroom flavor. But I'm going to go ahead and just soak these to bring back out that flavor really quick. And then I'll put them into the soup. Same along with our secret ingredient that when you have a meal a lot of times and somebody says, gosh, that tastes so good, there's like a depth of flavor. Well, that depth of flavor is actually what a lot of people call umami. It's like a new term that has come out, and it's been out for a little while, but a lot of people don't really know what it means. And basically it's that extra element of flavor that you can't put your words to describe. And the trick to doing that, a lot of times, you know how we would sometimes put like a bay leaf in our chicken soup. Well, another trick to doing that is by using kombu. And kombu is a seaweed, and you can get it at Whole Foods or any store probably that's kind of like a whole nutritional kind of store. But you want to just make sure that it's the non-GMO, and basically it's just it's an ocean plant. It's like seaweed, and all you need is one little piece of it, and that definitely flavors your anything that you cook. You can kind of throw kombu in anything, and it'll intensely flavor what you're cooking. Now the thing about kombu is it comes like this. It's very thick and it's like not very pliable, and it just smells like seaweed. That's basically what it smells like. I recommend always washing this off first, because you're just trying to remove anything that may have been on there from the sea that you don't know. Seaweed is really, really, really good with removing toxins from your body. So it's a really good thing to throw into soups, not only to impart flavor, but to also add in some of that benefit to help you heal while you're drinking or consuming the food. So it's just another good trick of putting something into your food that at the end you're not going to be eating this, but you're going to be getting the benefits from it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and stick my mushrooms, so I will be right back. Okay, we are back, and we cleaned up, and I let my mushrooms soak. Now if you have fresh mushrooms, you don't need to do that. Just chop them up real quick. We'll wipe them off, chop them up, and throw them in. But if you do, you'll just see I have a bowl here with some mushrooms and the water, and they're just kind of they've come back to life, so I say. So what I'm just going to do is dump them here into my pot, the water and everything. And I'm going to just stir it in, and that's it, guys. That's it. Turn that puppy on high, let it come to a boil, and then just let it simmer. And you can push this away, keep it in the back counter, and not only will your house smell amazing for the next 12 to 24 hours, but you'll have really, really amazingly healthy mineral broth when you're done, and we can talk about what to do with it then. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this helped. And I hope you guys try to make some stock or some basic broth. And you know, if you do, let me know how it went. Share some of the things that you did, or maybe what you used that was a little different from the recipe. And I'd love to hear your comments below. And I will talk to you guys later on the next recipe.